Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is Ellen coming to you from the tropical island of St. Bart's, and you are listening to Light Talk.
This is Broccoli in Las Vegas. Today we are talking about meeting designers and directors, more gel, confused gel, pool, puddle, and egg, balancing designer and academic work. And you are listening to Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers.
And sister.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 394. David is still out there making real money designing opera, but he should be with us in another week. Ellen, have you gotten any bad weather? Or is there any hurricanes coming your way?
No, knock on wood, we have been very lucky this year, to the detriment of a few other places, but we have been spared. So far.
Brackley, I understand you have some explosive news coming to us from Las Vegas.
Yeah, 2 days ago, the Tropicana was imploded, so the Tropicana is no more anymore. And it was quite the spectacle.
67-year-old hotel. Gone.
Mm-hmm. One of the old, it's the end of an era here.
Yeah.
It was one of the hotel's follies.
Do you live close enough to hear the explosion?
No, I was sleeping. It was 2 a.m, but I saw the replay the next morning. No, we live far away, so we didn't hear any of it.
Well, you could have taken your wife and some Kentucky Fried Chicken and 6-pack of beer and gone down there and watched it blow up.
I bet there are people who did.
There are a lot of people who did, but yes, we've been through about 3 or 4 implosions in our time here.
I hear they had a drone show to celebrate after the implosion.
Well, before the implosion, they had a big fireworks display with a drone display, and during the implosion, they had the drones circle around. So it was quite the lighting spectacular.
Wow.
What's going up in its place?
The Las Vegas Athletics new stadium.
Boy, you guys are going all in for sports out there.
It's the new Vegas. They tried Sin, then they tried Family Vacation, then they went back to Sin. Now they seem to be going to sports, and those sports betting bars, wow.
But the Golden Knights started it off, and the Raiders came, and now the Oakland A's are coming.
I understand that the drone show lit up with a big green A at the end.
It was their logo that they did in drones. It was a festive, and now that's the end of the era, and I don't know if there are too many more buildings they're going to blow up, because Mirage closed, but they're not blowing that up. They're just reconstructing a large guitar for a new casino.
You know, the reality is if the money is right, anything gets leveled in Las Vegas. I don't think they're sentimental about anything.
No, probably not. We used to sit there, and Pat McKay and I used to take bets like, how long is it going to be before they tear down the old Tam O'Shanter Motel? There were all those little one-story hotels and motels along the Strip. The old Flamingo, Hilton had one in the back where Bugsy Siegel used to stay, and the Tam O'Shanter, and I guess they eventually all sold out.
And my favorite, the El Rancho. I stayed there for every engineering show and LDI that I could.
I think the shame is that, one last thing about Vegas, that they didn't keep up the old-fashioned signs. They should have said, okay.
Oh, they did? Oh, no. They did. All the signs have been moved. They have a neon museum, and the whole neon museum has all the Tropicana sign was lit there last night.
I know. But do you remember the old Sahara had that big drive through Port Cochere, and it was 1 million light bulbs, and I just think Vegas had a little more glitz and glamour before, but what do I know? Anyway, I think Broccoli has our first question.
Mary from Ohio asks, with all the LEDs on the market, are they ever going to stop making gel?
Well, that's an interesting question because there are gazillion Source 4s out there. High schools, colleges, regional theaters, community theaters, synagogues, churches. And they all still use gel, I would imagine.
And they do. So gel's still being sold, obviously, and still being made. They are kind of downsizing. Like they charge now for swatch books, which used to be free. And we're finding out when you order gel from a 4-wall or a PRG, they may not stock all the colors they used to. So you'll still get it, but you have to order it. But they're kind of downsizing in their stock.
Gone are the days of those beautiful architectural file drawers where you pulled it out and you could see all the colors.
I think they're reverting back to gel for photographers. I think it's within a decade, most gel will be gone.
Well, what happens to all those Source 4s?
They'll be gone too. It came out originally, in around 83 maybe? 83 or 84, seems like maybe I'm being a little early on it. But there's a lot out there, and there's new, but there's a lot of old stuff that people have to be getting rid of. Here in Dallas, one of the theaters in town still has some relatively new ETC dimming, and believe it or not, they cannot give it away. It's not junk. It's really nice, relatively new stuff. They've gone to relays and LEDs. They kept a few dimmers, and they said, just come get it. We'll put it in the truck for you.
Well, nobody wants it?
Nobody wanted it.
Just for the record, for Light Talk, the Source 4 was launched in 92.
That late? Wow.
Yep. How about that?
That's what happens. Your memory goes as you get older.
Yeah, the decades just fly by.
Right.
I mean, that was over 30 years ago.
Right. It's amazing. It says something about the parts inventory and the tenacity of the Source 4 and how well it was built that a lot of this stuff is still in play.
Well, they're still selling them also.
I remember going to a USITT when the Source 4 first came out, and they had a Source 4 right next to an Altman, so you could kind of compare the two. And it was a no-brainer at the time. Source 4s just were really, really a lot better.
The optics and the brightness, right?
Yep.
Okay, Ellen, I think you have our next question.
I do. Paula from Philadelphia wants to know, if I don't go to graduate school, how do I meet the directors and designers I need to know? You guys are in the grad school business, so I don't know about that, but...
Well, the designers you can meet at LDI at the portfolio review without going to any school.
Yes.
And you can network that way. Networking is really the big thing, and calling the designers or emailing the designers and introducing yourselves and asking them if they can see your portfolio. It's one way.
Right, and I suppose that to meet designers, you could even volunteer at your local community theater and maybe meet some young designers who are going to go on from there, or try to team up with, depends if you're a lighting designer, maybe, if you go to New York and you're working off Broadway, you might meet some young designers and directors who will become your posse as you move forward. I think that is really important. Networking, I think, is really the key. And as Brackley said, you can do it at LDI, you can do it at USITT, you can go to a lot of events where there are, theater people.
Well, I think it is a misleading question. And I think it presumes that the only way to meet designers is through the magical graduate school. I think you can meet designers through undergraduate school also. I wouldn't discount undergraduate programs and the people who teach in them to also help open doors for you. And I would say graduate schools, the level of graduate schools that are happening now where everybody has a graduate program, that's relatively new, I think. Let's just go back 40 years and the limited number of graduate programs they were. Nothing stops you from knocking on doors in New York or Chicago or Atlanta or LA and going by and seeing these people. I mean, at some point, that's how everyone did it. So I don't think there's any magic at graduate school of all of a sudden there's a Rolodex somewhere and Doc is going to call up the last 10 years of Tony Award winners. I think you still have to go out and pound the street.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just think we have said on past shows about how, you at certain points in your career meet people that you will work with for a really long time. So
I think Ellen is right. I think wherever you're calling from, there's got to be community theaters. There's got to be maybe commercial theaters, maybe even a regional theater. You've got to go by and talk to them, and you got to be persistent about it.
So I also think it depends what your end goal is. I mean, if you want to work regionally, you can do that where you are. If Broadway is your goal, then, hie thee to a nunnery and get yourself a place to stay in New York and start pounding sidewalks.
And some of the undergraduate programs are quite good. Some of the BFA programs are quite good at networking the designers to to the industry.
But like we've said before, make sure you're in a program where there is also an acting and directing program. Because if you're in a school that may have a design program but not a directing program, you may not meet directors.
Correct.
Okay, looks like I have the next question. And it is Fenda in Kentucky writes, I can never get the color I want on a console by using the gel color picker. Any suggestions? Well, I think there's a couple things that you might not be taking into consideration. How does that light make color? Is it an LED source? Is it RBG? Is it CYM? Is it an arc source? So I think just turning on the light and putting your finger on the button that says R80, sometimes it doesn't even get you close. The other thing that you might consider is the color temperature settings on there. So all of a sudden, you're running all of your lights at 5,600 degrees. You can't quite figure out what's wrong. Maybe you need to roll that color setting down to 32 or 3,600, and all of a sudden things start getting a little bit unmuddy. All of a sudden the color starts popping out in there. I have mixed feelings on color pickers on consoles. There's the school of thought that it's just a waste of time, and the other school of thought that if you don't put the color picker on there, no one's going to buy your console. So a little trial and error, but eventually, you could just sit down. You could just get your console of choice at your theater, and you could just sit down with a cup of coffee and put a couple lights on the cyc or a couple of lights on a mannequin. And one's got a gel in it, and you're trying to match that gel. And you build yourself an inventory of settings, and you make your own.
Yeah, so you don't need a color picker once you do that.
Right.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's like there's a whole generation of kids coming up now who've never seen a gel. They don't know what the numbers are, right? I mean, if you only work in an LED world.
What does R80 really mean?
Right, exactly. They have no idea.
And I remember when people got desperate when Geletran was around. And all of a sudden they announced Geletran was going to go away, and people are out just buying sheets and sheets and sheets of their favorite color that they couldn't match cross-reference with Lee or Roscoe. I think a gel-less world is not to be feared.
People start hoarding gel. That's what they're going to do.
Well, you start mixing the color you want for your show. You start using your eye and your imagination. And, it's like saying, well, let's put 119 in every light. Let's put 201 in every light. Why do we make these silly rules up? And maybe 202 would have been a better choice. But nope, I'm going to put 201 in because that's what everybody does.
There are no rules.
Well, right. And yeah, I mean, it's like, if you were going to buy a car, you didn't need a buggy whip to go along with it.
Unless it's a Tesla truck.
Those things are, never mind.
Well, not only that, but they now say they have the worst visibility of any vehicle on the road. You can't see out of the front or the back.
That's what I want is cameras everywhere. That's exactly what I want when I'm going down 75.
You are listening to Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers and Sister. And today, Light Talk is sponsored by...
Well, actually, we have a public service announcement from No More 10 out of 12s. The lowly tech table, an island of sanity and an auditorium of chaos. Let's take a moment to discuss tech table etiquette. First, never approach a working tech table from the rear or side. The designer does not appreciate visitors sneaking up with suggestions. Always approach from the front. Take a small gift. It goes a long way. Perhaps a bit of fruit or a donut. Number 2, be careful about locking eyes with anyone at the tech table. Sustained eye-to-eye contact can be misunderstood as a challenge to the authority of the folks working there. Locking eyes is never not a threat. The locked eye contact is often used by predators who stare down their prey. Try to use short glances. You can break that up with downward and sideways looks. Number 3, Once you're accepted at the tech table, wait for an invitation before reaching for a donut or candy or the magic sheet. Face it, would you walk up to a coyote and reach for its fresh kill? Of course not. The designer will offer you a treat by pushing it in your direction with his nose. Equal care should be taken if picking up a pen, pencil, or notebook. Number 4. If offered a seat at the tech table by the alpha male or the alpha female, sit down, spill a little coffee to mark your spot. By taking these simple precautions, you will survive any journey to the tech table.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those caffeinated hipster monkeys means that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today we are discussing how to balance your designing career and your academic career for working designers who become professors.
Well, we're lucky. We have 2 of those on the show today. Broccoli, recently retired from the University of Nevada in Las Vegas, and Steve from Dallas. What's your take?
Standing in line to retire.
Right. And it's really up to the school. Most good programs want their professor designers to go out and work. And that's considered their creative research as opposed to just doing research. It's creative research. And they want people to go out and be nationally and internationally known as a designer. And I think that's probably the big important thing. To balance it, you don't want to go too far. You still have to be at school sometimes, but most good programs give you the latitude to do that.
Is it hard to juggle both?
No, I don't think so. Not for lighting designer. For scenic designers and costume designers and directors, it's a little more because they have to be there for longer. But for lighting designers, a lot can happen online and through Zoom, and you're there for about a week, 10 days. And you can have somebody cover your classes. Plus, it's an advantage to the students in the program. They get to see their professor designing, as well as a lot of professors will bring their students with them when they design off campus.
And do you try to do it in the city where you are, or you run off to New York or LA or whatever?
Well, most programs want you to do outside of your city. They want you to be nationally and internationally known. So outside the home city is preferable.
Well, Brackley touches on a point there. If you are starting your first job at a university, you're expected to publish. You're expected to research. And for us, that means doing commercial work. And it's not a bad idea when you're signing your contract that little clause is added into your contract that you can design, let's say, 1 show a year outside the university. And it's important to make sure that 1 show, whether it's in New York or Atlanta or you pick it, is something that the dean considers worthy of your time so that he or she will allow that show to go into your tenure file as a professional show. So I'd be careful about what you want to do. I think if you're just going away and working on a community theater production, I think a lot of people, and there can be very good productions, but I think a lot of people will really question what you're doing. And, is that worthy of taking a couple weeks away from the university? So I think you can be very careful about what you do. Brackley's right. I mean, they're looking for regional theaters, something that has some meat to it. They're looking for LA, Chicago, New York. They're looking for where the design, and actually Las Vegas, when you look at all the really good work that's being done there, they're looking for quality work, and they're looking for venues in which you're in competition, that there are other designers who are equally good who could be doing the job, but you have been curated. That theater is willing to bring you in because only you can do what they need done. And that says a lot, too.
What about you two? What was your experience?
My 4 schools was very good. All the schools I went at, I had conversations with the chairs and the deans before saying that I needed to do this, and would they accept it? 'Cause some deans are not as up to date on what we do. So sometimes you have to educate the deans and the provosts. But no, I've been very happy. They actually want me to go out, and they encourage me that this is what I need to do in order to get tenure and also go up the line to full professor.
For me, I was at a Research One facility, and that helps also because ultimately, someone up the food chain understands what a Research One facility means, not only to the hard sciences, but to the arts too. When I went and started talking about outside work, I was talking about working at the Joyce or City Center, and I was talking about working at the Kennedy Center, and I was asking for almost a month off to do a show at the Bolshoi, and Dean didn't bat an eye, did not bat an eye.
And that's when you were at SMU, or was that Louisiana?
LSU. Now, if I'd gone to him and said, I want to go do, the story of the Titanic in Fort Myers, Florida, then I don't know what he would have said. But he understands. I mean, it's like anything else. They look at the quality of the name of where you're working. That does so much. The director you're working with, that's the make or break deal right there.
I think it's interesting. I think it's important that the designers do, and it's a way to sort of keep up their professional relationships as well as up to date on gear and what's going on out there, right?
Well, the other thing, too, is it gets back to that question a few minutes ago about making contacts through college. If your faculty is out there working, then they're better positioned to walk into that theater and say, I've got a student who could be a good assistant here over the summer, or I've got a student who's really good at drafting. So it's placing faculty in a position that not only are they advancing their own career and padding their pocketbook, but they're also should be advancing the career of the students, either by, when I first came to SMU had a budget for me to take students with me. I mean, there was not even a question about that.
That's great.
That's no longer?
No, everything at universities, it seems like prices are going up, students are having to pay more, and, there are no villains here, I don't think. It's just that they go, if the student really wants it, they should come up with a $500 plane ticket. Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. But, they already can barely afford Domino's Pizza.
Right.
And particularly when these shows come up, sometimes there's plenty of time to plan it. But I've done a couple things where people have said, can you be here in 6 weeks to do this show, to do this dance concert, or, this ballet or whatever? And student hasn't had months and months and months to save money.
Right.
And when you're away with the luck of Zoom, you can actually teach your classes when you're on the road now.
Well, I really hate Zoom, but
I do too.
that is, I don't think students come to school to have Zoom classes. I think
no.
When I was in college, I had a behavioral psychology class, and I failed that sucker. And then I took it a second time and made a C in it. Now, it's my own fault for failing, but let me say that class was taught by videotape. It was a 100-seat auditorium. The instructor had recorded all of his lectures. The TA came in and put a videotape in, and we just sat there and watched a television show. And I certainly was not mature enough not to fall asleep or cut class. So I think the Zoom thing,
No, I agree, except for when you're away for a week and you have to do one class, it's not a bad idea to be able to do that.
Right.
Not the entire class.
Yeah, let's turn the tables a little. Speaking of Zoom and other things, did you guys have budgets to bring in outside professional designers to address your students?
Yep. Well, here in Vegas, it's great because whenever they come, they're in town doing something, and I drag them over to the college. I mean, I feel fortunate about that, and they'll want to come, and I'll drag them. But I've also brought people in the classroom via Zoom. In fact, we had one during COVID. We have a portfolio review where we brought in a number of directors and designers to view our students' portfolios, and that was very good.
I've seen some Zooms with professional designers interviews that have been really terrific. Because I think that would be an important aspect of a program, too, to have exposure to as many other designers as possible, right?
Well, that's another way to expand your program, too, if you want to partner with a foreign university to tie your class through Zoom to their class. So I've looked at that for a while.
You mean like something in England with different designers?
Well, for me, it was something in China, and they provided interpreters. But
Wow.
It was working through an arts program there. And, the bad thing about it is, the language. You're kind of a one step away from being connected to the students. But there's ways that, MIT tried that with one of their classes. They had something goofy years ago, some class that, 10 or 15,000 people worldwide signed up for. Something like 3 passed it. But, that's the holy grail. How can you reach more people with meaningful content as opposed just to it's a novelty?
Zoom has opened the eyes to a lot of people, I'll tell you that much. I didn't know what Zoom was before the pandemic.
I didn't either. I had no
I
idea.
don't think anybody did really. And there was a joke after the end of the pandemic where somebody said, I have a sense of impending Zoom. They'd been, done a few too many. But it allows people to stay home, for one thing, and get an enormous amount of work done. We have all of our meetings on Zoom or Teams now, and it seems to work great.
What about an LDI? Forgive me for not knowing. Are any of your workshops, can we zoom into any of those workshops for a small fee?
No, we do not do that. And part of the reason is the bandwidth, enough bandwidth to have something live like that at the convention center is prohibitively expensive. So it would kind of be a fun thing to do, but also we really want people to come. The goal of LDI is to get people before the gear on the show floor. And one of the carrots is the professional training opportunities, and a lot of it is hands-on. And, even, the talking heads panels, I don't think they're so exciting on Zoom, but it would be a way to reach a new audience. We used to video record some of them, but the very few people looked at them afterwards. I don't think Talking Heads is a very exciting video format.
No, I should tell you that I have done a class on Zoom with a friend of mine, Deepakar Mukherjee. He's an artistic director of Pangaea World Theater, Minneapolis, and I've known him for years. And he has 2 director mentees, and every other Friday, when I was teaching, we got together and we had my 4 lighting designers and his director mentees. One is an African-American, Native American from Minnesota. The other is an Arab-American from Chile. And we all get together and we talk about these wonderful, diverse plays. It's been a wonderful opportunity for our students to get a different perspective with other directors. And it's just been great. In fact, Deepakar is going to hire 2 of our former alums to design shows with him. So it's been a very wonderful opportunity.
I think that's a very good use of Zoom.
Well, I guess I have our last question for the day. And this is Joey in Pittsburgh writes, I have been working a call lately with a New York City designer, and she uses the terms pool, puddle, and egg. I'm pretty sure I know what a pool is. Puddle and egg, I never ran across in school. Are these common terms I should know? Hell yeah, you should know that. So they're kind of tied together. So a pool, we all know what a pool is. It is generally a circular
Pool of light.
Pool of light on
Pool
the
of
floor.
light. All right. It's a pool of light.
Hamlet stands in it and shakes his fist at God. So, we know what a pool is. All right. But a pool is usually two people wide. Now, I'm sure there are people throwing stuff at their computer now, but a pool is usually 2 people can fit in a pool. If you want one person, then you have a puddle. So a puddle and a pool.
Oh.
Now, what happens if you have a pool and a puddle superimposed on each other.
You get an egg.
You have an egg.
Oh.
So you have a yolk and the white around it. So pool, puddle, and egg. It's easy to focus. If you're trying to put a puddle and a pool together, you just say, "Hey, make it an egg," and the electrician knows exactly what you're talking about. You have an egg on the floor for some whatever reason. Maybe your pool is red and your puddle is white. So pool, puddle, and egg. I don't know how widespread they are, but.
And how common are they, Steve?
I have heard puddle and egg for a long time in the dance world. I've heard those terms.
Sure.
And my lighting supervisor refers to it as a poodle and an egg. So we don't have puddles, we have poodles. So there you are.
Fascinating.
But isn't the idea that a puddle is smaller than a pool?
A puddle is, and so is a poodle. Poodle could be smaller than a puddle. So yeah, it is smaller. So yeah, those are terms. I mean, the other thing that you hear occasionally is instead of someone referring to something as a half hat, we know what a top hat is, and you slice that in half and you have a half hat, so you only have masking on one side of your light. So the other three sides don't light up and glow. I hear that referred to a lot in New York as an eyelash. Because if you look at TV world, Dennis Size can tell you, if you have a top hat, then you have a half hat and a quarter hat, and you have a pancake. So you have your top hat, and instead of whatever that is, a 6-inch snoot on it, you have a 3-inch, and you have a half hat. Instead of 3-inch snoot, you have 1.5 inches, and you've got the smaller size, and then eventually 1 inch, you're down to the pancake.
That's really TV talk.
Well, there's nothing wrong with TV talk. We can all share.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. That's where it comes from.
Exactly. I guess it comes from Mole Richardson. But there's a lot of terminology out there, and you just whatever, why do they call it an egg crate grid? Why don't they call it a checkerboard grid? So, there's a lot to learn. You can impress your friends.
I'm going to in my retirement.
Yeah, you can say I need an egg on stage. Make me an egg, and they'll all be impressed because you know something they don't know.
I learned something new today. I did not know about puddles and eggs.
Well, it's probably worthless information, but there you go.
Well, the rocking sound of the luminoid tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check our website at lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, the Snoot Group with a legal team of Watson, Leitner, and Bean will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers and Sister, coming to you from St. Bart's, Las Vegas, and the Lone Star State.
and be sure to join us next week when we talk about more lighting shenanigans and serve you more of our casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
We will see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Toodles.
Bye-bye.
Bye.